Hello po mga ka-viral and welcome back again to this YouTube channel. Latest update na naman tayo ngayon. Sara Duterte tuluyan ng hindi makakatakbo sa 2028 presidential elections at posible pa itong makukulong. Dahil sa posibilidad na magko-convict ang Senado sa kanyang nalalapit na impeachment, hawak na ngayon ng prosecution ang matitibay ng mga ebidensya na nag-uugnay kay Sara Duterte sa patong-patong na mga kaso na isinampa ng iba't ibang grupo sa Kongreso, kabilang na ang misuse of confidential funds, bribery or panunuhol sa kanyang mga kawani sa Department of Education, disloyalty to the public trust, grave threat o inciting to sedition laban kay PBBM, the First Lady at dating House Speaker of the House, kung saan, ayon sa National Bureau of Investigation Director Atty. Matibag, ay meron silang ebidensya na nagpapatunay na meron umanong inutusan at sinuhulan si Sara Duterte na tao para isakatuparan ang plano kina PBBM, Lisa Marcos at Romualdez at hindi ito isang biro lamang. Dagdag pa dito ay titistigo na si Ramil Madriaga na dating security detail ni Sara Duterte at may alam sa di umanong ipagdi-deliver o paghatid ng mga pera mula sa operasyon ng Pogo sa pamilya Duterte. Subalit nagkaalitan sina Madriaga at mga Duterte dahil kinasuhan umano ni Harry Roque si Madriaga kung kaya ito ay nakakulong ngayon. Nabunyag din na meron umanong nagpaplano ng masama kay Madriaga sa kulungan. Ito ay nadiskubre ng NBI at tukoy na nila kung sino ang nasa likod ng planong ito. Ayon sa balita, ay nagbayad umano ang utak ng tao upang isakatuparan ang plano. Nagpasa naman ng resolution si Representative Chel Diokno na ilipat si Madriaga sa protection custody ng NBI detention upang maproteksyonan ito. Samantala, ay muli na namang nagkainitan sina Marcoleta at Lacson sa Senate session hinggil sa Administrative Order 29 na tinatanong ni Marcoleta na ayon kay Lacson ay hindi siya interesado pakinggan dahil umano sa patuloy na argumento ni Marcoleta hinggil sa ating West Philippine Sea. Matindi naman ang banat ni Commodore Tariela kay Marcoleta na tinawag nitong mas masahol pa sa hayop dahil sa patuloy nitong argumento sa ating West Philippine Sea. Matindi naman ang kinakaharap ni Marcoleta na kaso sa COMELEC hinggil sa 150 million na campaign donation nito noong nagdaang 2025 midterm elections. Ito din ang kasong kinakaharap ni Senator Chis Escudero. Samantala, Senator Bato de la Rosa ay muling nagparamdam pagkatapos ng ilang buwan nitong pagtatago at pananahimik. Sumulat kasi ito kay Senate President Tito Soto na kung maaari ay magamit ng kanyang pamilya ang Senate Mansion sa Baguio City na hindi naman pinayagan ni Senate President Tito Soto. Nabunyag naman ang ginawa umano ng asawa ni Sara Duterte na si Mans Carpio at Mike Defensor na di umano'y nag-finance sa 18 ex-Marines para lumantad. Na ayon kay Senator Ping Lacson at Ombudsman Boying Rimulya ay bahagi umano ng planong destabilisasyon upang manggulo sa nalalapit na impeachment ni Sara Duterte.
Sumuka si Manscarpio ng 300 million pesos sa operasyon ng Marines. 150 million pesos kay Mike Defensor, 50 million pesos kay Libby Baligod at 5 million pesos sa bawat isa sa 18 na Marines.
Wala nang maraming paligoy-ligoy pa, diretso sa punto na. Maiksi lang ang komentaryo, pero diretso sa punto. Maraming kuro-kuro, may tiwali, may totoo. Dito, sa puntong diretso tayo. Punto, diretso.
O mga kabunyog, may kumakalat na mga posts sa social media. Tuloy ang nagpasimula ng post itong isang journalist na si Philip Lostri Jr. Ngayon, kinakalat ito dahil syempre medyo seryoso itong post na ito. Tungkol ito doon sa 18 na ex-Marines na present ni Atty. Libby Baligod at ni Mike Defensor. Alam naman natin masyadong kontrobersyal yung 18 na ex-Marines na yan. Ngayon, ang sinasabi ni Ombudsman Boying Rimulya, yan anya ay ang purpose talaga niyan, mag-create ng destabilisasyon o mag-create o lumikha ng political tipping point para mag-alsa ang military. Yan yung totoo dyan, nasa likod niyan. Yan din ang sabi ng NBI. Sabi ng NBI at sa kanila Boying Rimulya ng Ombudsman, may nag-finance dyan, may nagpundo dyan. Yan yung sinasabi nila. Hindi naman ano yan, hindi gagalaw yan ng mga ano nung walang nagpi-finance diyan. May perang involved diyan. Halimbawa, itong mga anoanyang ito, itong mga ex-marines na ito, wala na silang trabaho eh. Dati silang mga marines tapos nagtrabaho kay Saldico, pero natigil yung trabaho nila eh. So, sa ngayon, posibleng na-oferan sila ng nabigyan sila ng pera. Kasi siyempre may problema sila sa ekonomiya nila, pagbuhay na ng pamilya, pag-sustain. So malamang nabigyan ng pera 'yan at may gumalaw na pera diyan. At siyempre hindi yan madali. Kailangan ng budget diyan sa mga galawan na 'yan. Ngayon, ang sabi ni Philip Lustre Jr., sumuka si Manscarpio ng 300 million pesos sa operasyon ng Marines. 150 million pesos kay Mike Defensor, 50 million pesos kay Libby Baligod, at 5 million pesos sa bawat isa sa 80 na Marines. Patanong yung statement niya. Pero yun yung gusto niyang sabihin eh. Kumbaga pinapalabas niya dito na totoo ba? Totoo ba na si Manscarpio Anya ang nag-finance nito? Kaya si Manscarpio nga ba ang nagpundo? Alam naman natin si Manscarpio asawa ni Sara Duterte. At maraming beses na rin na nai-involve itong si Manscarpio sa mga kontrobersya. Doon sa illegal na droga, kinasuhan siya ni Trillanes. At saka pinaniniwalaan na itong si Manscarpio ang gumagalaw sa likod ni Sara Duterte. Ito di umano yung nagmamaniubra. Kasama ito ni Pulong sa maraming mga kontrobersya. Tulad nga nung illegal na droga, itong si Manscarpio. Ngayon, dahil maraming nai-involve ito sa maraming mga katiwalian, ibig sabihin, ito yung kumukontrol ng pera. Kaya, kumbaga ang pinapalabas dito, posibleng yung operation na yung mga ex-marines, ang nagpupundo ay si Manscarpio. Based doon sa post ni Philip Lustre Jr. na kahit sabihin nating patanong yon, pero yun yung ini-insinuate niya. Ngayon, nag-react na dyan si Attorney Libby Baligod sa post na yan ni ni Lustre. Sabi ni Attorney Libby Baligod, itong si Philip Lustre, sa halaga lang na 2,000 pesos, nag-post na daw ng ganon, nagkakalat na daw ng ganon. Laos na daw kasing journalist. Ang sinasabi ni Attorney Libby Baligod, laos ng journalist si Philip Lustre Jr. Binigyan lang daw ito ng 2,000 pesos. Ayan na, nag-post na ng ganyan, nagkakalat na ng ganyan. Anyway, si Manscarpio wala pang reaksyon. Ang pinapalabas lang doon sa parang ang pinupunto doon, ang gustong i-insinuate ni Philip Lustre Jr., yung operation na yan ng 18 ex-marines, Duterte yan. Para kay Sara yan. At siyempre para kay Digong yan. Dahil operation yan para kay Sara, posibleng si Manscarpio ang nag-operate, ang nag-finance niyan. Ngayon, hindi natin alam kung totoo ba yan. Yun lang ang ini-insinuate ni Philip Lustre Jr. Kayo, anong tingin nyo? Totoo kaya? May katotohanan kaya na si Manscarpio ang nag-finance niyan? Bakit naman si Manscarpio ay ang pinag-uusapan natin na di umano yung mga katiwalian ni Sara, yung mga nakuhang pondo galing sa korupsyon, Siyempre, sa kanilang mag-asawa yan. Ay di siyempre, itong anong ito, kung may operation sila para sa Duterte at para kay Sara, lalo itong tungkol sa impeachment, ang gagalaw siyempre si Manscarpio. Kasi asawa ito. At saka abogado rin ito. At na marami na rin kasing ah, kontrobersya na nai-involve itong si Manscarpio. Katulad nga nung mga kinaso sa kanya at kay Pulong Duterte ni Trillanes mismo. Anyway, abangan natin kung anong magiging reaksyon ni Manscarpio. Ang nag-react pa lang kasi si si Libby Baligod. Si Manscarpio wala pa. Abangan natin. At kung mag-react man si Manscarpio, pag-usapan uli natin. O mga kabunyog, si Bato de la Rosa. Talagang hindi na nahiya itong si Bato de la Rosa. Mga kabunyog, hindi na nahiya. O anong sabihin na natin? Direkta na, sabihin na natin, walang hiya. Walang hiya na talaga itong si Bato de la Rosa. Imagine niyo mga kabunyog, sumulat kay Senate President Soto, nagpapaalam na kung pwede daw magamit ng kanyang pamilya yung mansion ng Senado doon sa Baguio City. O mayroon palang mansion doon ang Senado. Siguro, pag nagbabakasyon doon ang mga senador, ayun, ginagamit nila yon. Senate mansion. Doon sa Baguio, syempre malamig doon. Kaya kung pagbabakasyon, kung gustong mag-meeting ng mga senador doon, sabay bakasyon na, mayroong Senate mansion doon. Mayroong palang ganon, no? Ang alam ko lang na mansion doon yung ang alam ko mayroong doon yung mga yung Korte Suprema. Kasi may panahon na nagsesesyon doon ang Korte Suprema. Pero yung pala ang Senado mayroon din Senate mansion. O ngayon ang ginawa ni Bato de la Rosa, sumulat kay Soto sa Senate President sa pamamagitan ng Secretary ng Senate, si Mark Lian Rumindosa ba yun? Ngayon, ano ang laman ng sulat? Nagpapaalam si Bato na kung pwede magamit yung Senate Mansion doon sa Baguio City ng kanyang pamilya. Kasi mayroon yatang golf tournament doon. So manunood yata yung pamilya niya. Ewan natin kung nandun din si Bato. Basta, nagpaalam ang opisina ni Bato, official yung sulat, may letterhead ng office ni Senator Bato de la Rosa, pina-receive sa secretary ng Senado, at ang laman ng sulat ay nagpapaalam na kung pwede magamit ng pamilya niya ang mansyon ng Senado doon sa Baguio. Wow, matindi Present ka, hindi ka nagtatrabaho mula November, tapos ngayon may gana ka pang gumamit ng pag-aari ng Senado. Hindi lang naman yung pag-aari ng Senado, pag-aari yan ng sambayanang Pilipino. Tapos, hindi ka nagtatrabaho, absent ka, ilang buwan na. Tapos may gana ka pang magpaalam na kung pwede magamit yung Senate Mansion ng kanyang pamilya, Talagang walang hiya na itong si Bato de la Rosa. Tatak Duterte talaga, no? Mga kabunyog, mga kababayan. Mabuti na lang, ang latest na balita, denied. Hindi pinayagan ni Senate President Soto. Tama lang yun. Kasi kung pinayagan niya yun, kaliwat kanan ang bati ko sa kanya. Sa Senate, sa
companies natin who will invest there, etc. Hindi na tataksan, etc. Ganun din siguro feeling nila. Pero right now, as what the BIR said, may problem. There's a big disparity, di ba? Savings of 15 billion versus 200 plus billion for gun. Ibig sabihin, we don't have. What is your take on this, Assistant Director C?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and with the permission po of our DAS, with the on the part of the Office of Treaties and Legal Affairs, what we can speak of is how it disaligns with our existing international commitments. And for our part po, there are two things that we are looking at. It's one of our regional commitments, which is based on the ASEAN Forum on Taxation, and this supports what our colleagues in the DTI and BOI are saying, that this helps remove one of the possible barriers to the influx of investments from Cambodia and other partners, because one of those is uncertainty. So when there's more certainty on how they will be taxed, it might help promote better trade relations between the two countries. And the other thing that we are looking at po is the larger commitment, which is part of the Global Forum on and the Inclusive Framework on Business, Trade. Basically, the thrust of that commitment is to avoid tax loopholes. So if there is more certainty, then we can avoid those who are, or deter those who would take advantage of the uncertainty to avoid paying taxes, whether to one party or the other. So like our partners were saying, this is more about laying the foundation for future clear frameworks, but also to encourage trade. So we defer to our colleagues in the DTI, DOF, BOI in explaining the technical and the computation of this, but that is how the policy and the international commitments align, the DTA aligns with those.
Ay, kaso nga po, over the past years, 44 na DTAA, ang tanong po natin, nakinabang ba tayo basing on what Attorney Tolentino was saying, based on their records, talo pa, ma'am, ang layo. 15B, savings versus 244, lugi. Why will you, ganito lang ho natin, basic, bakit ka magbubukas ng negosyo kung talo ka, di ba? And 44 na po ito. We're not gaining anything out of it. How do we explain that to the people? That's my problem right now. Una pa lang ang magiging problema natin dito, if I bring this to the floor, katakot-takot lahat siguro yung tatayo. Bakit natin naaprubahan yan? Ba't mo aaprubahan yan, Chairman Tulfo? Eh wala naman pala tayo, we're not getting out of this. I cannot say for future reference. Baka sabihin ng mga kasamahan ko, sa future na lang natin aprobahan yan. You get where you understand what I'm saying or where I'm coming from. Eh, kung titingnan mo lang, di ba? Wala tayong nakukuha, wala tayong nahihita. There you go. Sa Tagalog, wala tayong nakukuha dito. We're not gaining anything out of this. So, kaya tanungan natin, what have we nakinabang na ba tayo dito? Director Portosa, let me ask you this. Out of this 44,
in terms of the benefit, Mr. Chair, if we're looking at the FDIs that came in, we can say that the DTA might have served its purpose, because again, I said in the top 10 FDI sources with which the Philippines has existing DTAs. So we have Japan, US, Singapore, Korea, Malaysia, Germany, UAE, and Italy, Mr. Chair. There are significant and notable investments from these countries on the sectors that we are actually promoting under the Strategic Investment Priority Plan. So in that sense, Mr. Chair, we are benefiting. The DTA has served its purpose in terms of achieving that transparency and predictability, Mr. Chair. So just checking, Mr. Chair, with the BIR on the 15 billion, was it, Mr. Chair, a savings of our companies, or is it the taxes that should have been paid?
Attorney Tolentino, can you answer that?
It is the estimated revenue savings of the Filipino individuals and companies.
So that savings could be diverted or could be further increased or invested for our Filipinos, for our Filipino companies, Mr. Chair. So in that sense, there's also a tangible benefit to that. But maybe what is important is to highlight how much we could have been collected had it, if we don't have an DTA, how much would have been not remitted or paid because Mr. Chair, in the with the DTAA we are also looking at exchange of information, so we're able to track the income that are sourced from without and within the Philippines, and so we're able to fully collect the taxes due. Right. So I think that one of the items that we should achieve with the DTA, Mr. Chair, is also that take advantage of the exchange in information transparency so that no one is able to evade paying taxes, as highlighted also by our foreign affairs colleague, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Director Portosa. Attorney Tolentino, would you have the figures like ilan sa mga DTAAs nito ang naging beneficial and lugi tayo? Do you have any? At this point, no. Kasi what I'm driving at is we have to get the pattern of the impact of these DTAs. We have to get the pattern. Ano ba talaga ang trend? Are we going to make money? Are we going to lose? So, do you have there? Or if not, then you can submit it probably in this committee your study. Go ahead, please.
Sir, with regards po dun sa estimated revenue forgone, even though it is revenue forgone, with regards to the investment, as previously mentioned by Ma'am BOI, the investments are actually advantageous, even though there are taxes forgone, because we have utilized 42 out of the 44 existing tax treaties. So we defer to the BOI, the study on the investments, foreign direct investments itself. So 42 out of the 44 treaties po yung well utilized. Kasi po nag-invest po sila dito, yun nga lang po, lower tax rate or exemption po yung binigay natin. Pero nag-invest po sila sa Philippines.
Kaya nga, yung ibig ko sabihin, what I'm driving at is hindi tayo lugi basing on what you're looking at. Is this that's how you look at it also, Board of Investments, Director Portosa, but because of the foreign direct investments?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we can look at that in general terms because we're looking at the FDIs from this, at least for the top 10 countries that I have on my document right now. But in terms of the actual computation, maybe, Mr. Chair, the BIR would have the data.
My next question here, Director Portosa, dito sa 44 na ito, lahat po ba ito may mga companies sila dito? Do they have companies here currently operating in our shores?
Mr. Chair, I can only highlight the top 10, but I would have to check the rest of the 44 DTAAs. But the top 10 that I have mentioned, yes, we have FDIs, we have recorded investments from these countries.
So if ever, Director, only Cambodia this time, kung sakasakaling aprobahan na ito, only Cambodia ang walang company dito operating in the country.
The data that I have, Mr. Chair, at least for insofar as the BSP FDI record, would cover from 2020 to 2025. So we can further look beyond 2020 if there will be any. What I can right away check, Mr. Chair, is my data in my office because we are regulating those that are registered with the Board of Investments for purposes of incentives. Right now, Mr. Chair, we are also discussing how BSP captures FDIs because usually FDIs, I think we're looking at the definition of 10% equity in an existing company in the Philippines. So if there will be if I can see 10% Cambodian, then maybe we can say that to that extent, that's the BSP website, the FDI data, Mr. Chair. We will submit to the committee once we have that information.
Thank you. Well, what I want to find out, if anybody here can give me, nung inaprubahan ba, for example, yung DTAA ng isang country, may investment na ba sila ito? Meron na ba silang company existing in our country when we approve this? Yung mga previous, yung mga approved na out of 44, meron na ba silang existing companies? Kasi How will we approve it dito sa Cambodia kung wala pa talaga silang company din dito, di ba? Uh, can somebody tell me here? I mean, na may inaprubahan tayo na DTAA ng isang country na they have already existing companies here. Kasi dito, how can we approve this kung wala silang company dito sa ating bayan? Can somebody tell me this or probably submit to this committee a study? Is it DFA? Is it under you guys? Will you be responsible?
Para hindi sila masyado.
Or to simplify it para hindi masyado vague, focus lang sa ASEAN countries. Okay? Can you just focus on ASEAN countries? Which countries, when we sign this agreement of a double taxation agreement, have already existing companies in our country? Can you cite an example? Dito lang tayo. Let's focus on ASEAN countries. So if you don't know, please submit in this committee your study, your report. I want to find out. Believe me, ladies, I am for this. Okay, your explanation, Director Portosa, Director Sikimte, it will lure investors in our country. Kasi sasabihin, madali mag-invest doon, hindi pa pahirapan yung companies natin. And then foreign companies, they will say, like, let's invest there. Okay? Then we will just pay taxes there, pero wala dito sa ating bansa. We will not. Pero at this point, gusto ko malaman na yun nga, what do we get out of this at this point? Sabi mo, a future investment, that's a very good answer. Kaya gusto ko malaman, kung ito pa lang ba ang unang bansa out of the 7 yata dito na mga tiga-ASEAN ay meron na silang, wala pa silang existing pero inaprubahan na. Para sundan ko na lang yun. When you understand where I'm coming from, Director Portosa, so that I can explain it to my colleagues. Nangyari na ito, may president na, di ba? It was approved before kahit wala pang company. Then the previous Congress approved this. Example, this country right here in ASEAN, inaprubahan na ng committee na ito. So then I have something to tell them on the floor. Kasi sasabihin ko, approve sa akin, I will tell everybody here, ako okay sa akin. And then you will just be disappointed, especially BOI and DTI. Kung haharangin naman sa baba, nobody will sign it because they will say, talo. At least kung if there's already a country na we had an agreement, then I can tell them, how come this country was approved during the 17th or 16th Congress or 15th? O naaprubahan na po pwede. Because otherwise, if this will be the first country, then it's really hard to have this approved or fight on the floor. It's really going to be hard. Ito pa ang tanong natin, ang Pilipinas po nag-initiate ng DTAA. Is this correct, Director Sikimte? Did we initiate it, or who can answer this? DFA? I'm sorry. So you initiated it. What was the basis na we have to initiate this DTAA? What is the basis? Just simply to attract investors? Is this the only reason na we initiated? Can you answer, DFA?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Based on the information that we received from the Department of Finance, it's really to encourage cross-border investments between the countries that in ASEAN and the Philippines. So that's the main goal. And of course, to proceed with our commitments, international commitments on the ASEAN Forum on Taxation.
Okay. So lumalabas po, it's just we're approving this agreement so that we can attract investors. Pero ang tingin ko, ma'am, I beg to disagree that this will be a tool where we can attract more investors. I believe we can attract more investors kung ika nga it will be easier for them to invest in our country, yung ease of doing business. Because I have spoken to a lot of ambassadors, and their complaint is like it's hard for their companies to invest in our country because we have so many requirements, we have so many regulations that they have to follow. When they apply for this certificate or permit, it's taking us a while. Like pinapabalik-balik pa. We need this, we need that. For example, we need your account. And then pagbabalik ni account, balik na naman. No, we still need this. You know where I'm coming from? This is our problem. It's not kahit na sabihin natin may DTAA tayo na to attract. I mean, ika nga, kumbaga sa pagkain ay masarap. Tignan, di ba? Pakinggan. But then again, kung ang problem naman natin pag nandito na sila, yung investment, we have a lot of things to fix.